talk about is Zion, the injury, whether he should sit or not. Just basically all around those things. So obviously, I'm sure you've seen the injury by now to Zion. He blew out his shoe, which is a very bad look for Nike, as we've heard all day. Um, my opinion on whether he should sit or not, I think he should play. Now, the reason I think he should play is it's pretty simple. They brought it up today on First Take. The dude's got $100 million insurance policy cut out. So if this dude has a career-ending injury or something like that, he's $100 million richer. So honestly, I don't see that big of a risk. Even if he gets a catastrophic injury, he's still going to get to play in the NBA, and he's going to have that money to back it up. So I think he should definitely play. Um, that on top of being coached by Coach K for the rest of the year, playing real basketball. You can't really simulate that. You're not going to have a pickup game that simulates that. You're not going to have a one-on-one that simulates that. I think it's important to get that experience in before the NBA, instead of sitting. And also, I mean, if you win a championship at the NCAA, that's something you remember for the rest of your life. I don't see why that's so insignificant. I know they're not getting paid or anything like that, but he's already played this much. I don't think the injury chances are that insane or that high. And I also think the $100 million insurance policy guarantees that he'll be rich. So
Yeah, I didn't know about that insurance policy. That's almost better than most NBA contracts for not superstars, but most role players. So, I would definitely play if I was Zion as well because when he made his decision to go to Duke, they already had Cam Reddish and R.J. Barrett. They were number one recruiting class, and they had R.J. Barrett was rated better than Zion for most media outlets for high school, and the number two player and decide to come play with the number one and the number three player to win a championship and to be in the Final Four and experience this type of thing. So I don't think Zion's just going to have some drastic change of heart unless the media or something like that gets in his head. Because I feel like the reason he wanted to go to Duke was to win a championship, and if he wanted, just to kind of like lackadaisical go by on his college days, he could have gone anywhere in the country and kind of just stayed out of the spotlight. But he went for the spotlight, and
yeah, and he could have. I mean, he could have played in Europe if he wanted for I think a year. He could have sat out if he really just wanted to train. Yeah, and he's previously stated he wants to be there for the college experience as a whole. So I think staying's in the best interest for him. I think he will stay, and I think it makes the most
I
sense.
just think it makes the most sense too because it's only a mild knee sprain. I mean, how many times have we heard of a mild knee sprain and somebody's come back even better, like
Right.
with not even feeling it? So I don't understand why this first injury is a huge caution. I realize he's 285 and it's a knee injury, and that's you always got to be cautious with that. But just have him rest or something and come back because that
Yeah, and if
it's
he, I
almost
mean,
done.
if it's because of his size that he's that big of an injury risk and stuff like that, I don't think it'll matter. Like, what does it matter if he's in the end? He's going to get hurt eventually if it's because of his physical attributes. If he's too big and athletic and that's why he's going to hurt himself, it's going to happen eventually. And since he's covered financially, I don't really
Yeah.
understand how there's such an added risk to playing out the year. So yeah, I think for everybody, it's honestly the best decision. I've heard a lot of people disagree with that, but I mean, I don't think sitting out a significant amount of time is beneficial to him at all. I mean, it's basketball. You gotta be used to the speed, to everything, and it's not you can't really simulate that in practice or
I don't think
anything.
going through high school and then go and play about 25 college games can really get you ready for the NBA as well as going to, March Madness and seeing like top
Right, having
competition
real
like
pressure
that.
on you. Like there was real pressure in the building last night. The spotlight was on, everybody was watching, the ticket prices were high. So yeah, games like that are gonna be, every night in the tournament. So it's definitely gonna be a different look and good experience when he's actually in the NBA since he'll have been exposed to those type of pressure situations in games.
I think another point that I was thinking about of why he should play is like he's playing with RJ Barrett, who's going to be the second or third pick, top five guaranteed, and Cam Reddish is top seven guaranteed probably in this year's draft. And why wouldn't you want to play with two other, potential all stars, top 10 picks You're not going to get that next year in the NBA. You're probably going to go be like a lone soldier in the NBA by yourself for at least a year until another like all-star can come by. So I don't know why you wouldn't want to play with those
Not to
caliber
mention your
players.
coach is probably not going to be as good as
It's
Coach
Coach
K, since it's going to be an early lottery pick.
Sure.
So we can transition from there and move into like why players are so cautious in general in basketball for playing. I don't really understand it at all. To me, it makes no sense. You see players playing in summer leagues, and what do they call that summer league?
The Drew League.
The Drew League. You see these players in the Drew Leagues playing with amateurs, and they're playing their hardest and stuff. They're trying to ball, and then come time the All-Star game, certain college, like we just talked about with Zion, and these players act like trying is just the biggest injury risk in the world. And last time I checked, playing basketball isn't that risky, and it's also one game. I don't understand why we have to be given this mediocre product that is the All-Star game every single year. And these players act like, they act like they're risking their lives trying in the game. And it's like, it's not that big of a risk. If you're really about competition, then you should be trying, because these are the best players in the world. Obviously, the All-Star game doesn't count for anything. That's probably the biggest problem of it all. But it's also kind of shows today's game how players just seem to shy away from true competition. It doesn't feel like a lot of the players in the league anymore want that, me versus you. I'm going to take down the best. I'm coming for you. It seems like players more want to join up. Players want to
And I think that
play
culture has
together.
changed a lot in the past like 8 years. That culture has changed, and I think it's really changed when LeBron kind of went to Miami and kind of sold himself out and ditched like the homegrown team that drafted him and wanted to go play with a couple other All Stars, and then KD went and played with three other All Stars at Golden State, and you see how that turns out. And I just think people just don't want to play in the All Star game or risk anything. They just want to kind of relax and kind of not have to. They don't want it to be all on them. They want it to be like a team effort to where if they don't like they mess up, it's not all their fault. And I think that has to do with a lot of it. Like Kevin Durant going to the Warriors didn't want all that pressure on the world in him. So
Yeah, I definitely agree with that stuff. That All-Star game, I feel like, has been getting kind of shittier over they had that 1 year, maybe 2 years ago, that was good. But yeah, it just seems overall as the years go by, it just gets worse and worse and worse. They were on pace to score 200 points at halftime this week, which was just embarrassing. And so it's like, yeah, it's these players, they don't want the pressure on them anymore. We even seen a player that really wants that pressure on him since Kobe. And maybe there's a couple other guys in the league, but right now, they're not really, they don't really have a chance because of, the distribution of talent. And it really feels like being an NBA champion nowadays doesn't mean as much as it used to, because obviously they had great teams back then, but these players are making these decisions now, and they're deciding, okay, I need this guy and this guy and this guy to win, and if I don't have them, then I have an excuse on why I'm not winning. And it almost seems like the rest of the league feels that way. Like Damian Lillard's on the other day saying how he's not going to sell out for a championship. But it's like he knows he's not going to win a championship with that team.
true.
He knows he has no chance, and it takes a lot of the fun out of the league. It really does. You got the Washington Wizards. They have two, all-star caliber players, and they have no chance to win the championship. Why? Partially because John Wall's contract's ridiculous. But that's the reality of today's NBA. You want superstars, but also you need a super team to even win a championship. Whereas back in the day, you could probably have one really, really great player carry your team to like one championship or so. Obviously that's not dynasty material, but super teams are popping up out of nowhere. We're looking like we're about to have another super team in New York, potentially. And I think it's bad for the NBA. I think it's good in ways, but I really feel like, all right, think about it this way. If you had the West and the East right now, and you took Golden State out, how much more fun would the NBA be right now?
NBA would be great.
The NBA would be
amazing.
So everyone would be like, wow, the West has some good teams. The East has some good teams. They're going to battle it out, and we're going to have two freaking teams that we really can't, that's almost impossible to predict. battle it out in the championship. And what we have now is instead we have the West already decided, and the East, is going to be fun to watch, but we know they're not going to win.
Not going to win.
We know they're not going to win.
It's the Golden State. It's been like that for about 4 years. Even when the Cavs took them 7, they won in a miraculous way. I mean, they came back from 3-1. Like Golden State has been
with a Draymond suspension.
With a suspension,
it's still not. It's nobody really feels that's a. I mean, you can't take the championship away, but nobody's like, oh yeah, the Cavs just completely outmatched them. It's kind of everybody kind of knows that was a circumstantial victory.
Yeah, and I read something the other day that said the All-Star game had one of its worst turnouts in viewership ever. So, I mean, fans are really starting to notice that this is some crap that we're watching. And, none of my friends watched it, and they rather watch other TV. Go watch the best players on planet Earth play a sport that all of them love. No one doesn't even want to watch it. That's amazing.
It's basketball culture in general. I mean, you see some of these guys in the media. I mean, this is sort of a different point, but you see guys in the media, basically like, oh, I would never get put on a poster on a dunk. I would never go to block that dunk or whatever because I don't want to risk it. And it's like it all comes together. It's like it's this lack of competition. It's this lack of like, I don't want to go head to head with this other guy and get embarrassed. I can't risk that embarrassment. And guys used to have the mindset like, I'm coming for this guy. I'm going to do everything I can. Like I'm going to die coming for this guy. If I lose, I lose. And now it's like, oh no. I have to be cautious. I can't go after this guy. I have to make sure that I am like the only guys that go after each other are the guys that know they're going to be successful. And I don't see. I mean, you don't see it in anyone. LeBron knows he's not going to beat Golden State most of the time. It's
just
sad.
A real watered down league the past few. I mean, it started with LeBron, like I was saying earlier, and then KD left to go to the Warriors. Then it's happened in other places. And then DeMarcus Cousins is on the Warriors, and
he's just like
restrictions up now, so he's going to be getting way more time. And I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't lose a game in the playoffs,
I wouldn't be surprised either.
3 other games the rest of the year because that's the best team probably ever assembled.
It is.
It's
really not fair. It makes no sense. It's like these players are taking pay cuts. They're they're manipulating the league, and you can say that owners and GMs did that in the past, but I mean, I don't think there's ever been first of all, I don't think there's ever been a super team compared to Miami. And then if you add Golden State, I don't think there's a super team even close to that. I don't even think it's close.
I mean, it's like these players in the past few years have almost become the GMs, and the GMs aren't even, the GMs just deal with the role players, and the superstars are their own GMs that can do whatever they want. Because at this point, the media has made all these superstars. They have their own brand, so they have their own they have their own pull and their own weight that they can throw around and tell people what to do, kind of like LeBron. So it's just getting to where the league's going to get withered down to about 4 to 5 teams, and right now it's 1. So
right now it's 1. Yeah.
So if it was 4 to 5, that'd be honestly an improvement. But right now it's withered down to about 1 team, maybe for like 2, and it's just kind of.
I mean, we need more teams or we need more players like Russell Westbrook, and honestly now like Paul George, who
like Giannis is
like Giannis. I mean, these guys want to win, and they want to win with who they're with. And they don't they don't care about what anyone else thinks. And we need more of that in the NBA. We need more guys who want to take down these super teams instead of become part of one.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's going to happen because, you got all these young kids looking at these superstars doing this. So there needs to be a culture change in the NBA, and I hope it happens fast.
It needs to be a huge one.
I mean, the NBA is great, and we're not even saying that, but it just needs to change a little because come playoff time, playoffs past 2 years were incredibly boring. So
yeah, in the West, that's the thing. The East has been fun the whole time. That's what the NBA needs more of. It's competition. Really, is what we're lacking. What players are complaining, or not what players, but what everyone's been complaining about the past 4 years in the NBA. It's time for some change, but I don't know if we'll ever get that. That's more of like a mental shift by players.
It'll probably be for a few years because when LeBron.
It's gonna basically be right. It's almost gonna happen when a super competitive player somehow pulls one out over a super team. Like if somehow Giannis pulled it out, or somehow I don't know. Westbrook, yeah, the Thunder, a team like that, basically a homegrown team somehow takes down this giant. and they witness how much glory this actual competitor gets. Because you know that competitor is going to trash that team, that super team they beat.
Oh, absolutely.
So I just think more players are going to be attracted to doing that in the future if a team can pull it off. If not, I think it's going to stay the same.
Yeah,
So
me too. All right, so next topic we're going to go into is just the NFL league year. Starts on March 13th, which is about 2 weeks away, and they're going to start being like every NFL team will be able to start actively shopping for free agents. And I just wanted to go over the salary cap at first. And the top salary cap teams right now, the number one team is the Colts, who actually made the playoffs last year with about $107 million in cap space. And then we got the Jets, Bills, Browns, Niners to round out the top five. And, I'm looking at this. The Texans are actually number six. So the Texans are six and the Colts are one. And those are two playoff teams that really could make a huge splash with some free agents like, Le'Veon Bell. They got Antonio Brown. That's not a free agent, but they could pick up his contract. And it's exciting.
it's definitely exciting. I like the Colts a lot for the fit of Le'Veon and even Antonio Brown. The only thing is I've heard the GM state that he's not going after players like that, which is probably the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. I don't understand. I don't understand these NFL GMs who don't want talent on their team. I mean, look at the Rams. The Rams loaded up on talent, loaded up on disgruntled players, and they wound up making it to the Super Bowl. They wouldn't have made it to the Super Bowl if they didn't add those additions. I mean, Ndamukong Suh and Talib made a huge difference. Tons of players, Cooks, all of them made an impact when it mattered. I don't understand why coaches and GMs can't get a hold of these players. I don't understand why these players are such problems. It's like they say anything against the team and all hell breaks loose. They're people. Why are they not allowed to criticize? I saw something, this is a little off topic. I'm not going to go too deep, but the GM for the Steelers the other day basically said publicly that Big Ben can say whatever the hell he wants. He's the leader of the team. That to me is unbelievably ignorant. Like you're telling your whole team that one player is above everyone else and he can do whatever he wants. But if you're not him, you can't do those things. What did Antonio Brown do that's so much worse than Big Ben trashing players on his radio show? I mean, he's out of his mind now, obviously. I mean, it's too far gone. But it's at the point where it's like, why is he seen as a problem to everybody, but Big Ben's not? Why is Big Ben not getting it? If Antonio Brown trashed Big Ben on some Instagram post or something, he would be suspended games. So I don't understand why, just because he's the leader of the team, he's allowed to trash people. Leaders don't do that. So
yeah, it's just interesting. It kind of goes back to like the culture, like we were talking about with the NBA, and kind of in the NBA, it's the players that have the power now, and the NFL, the owners and the GMs have all the power. They don't take any crap from anybody. And that includes Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown, two of the best at their positions. But I mean that just has to do with like the teams and stuff like that. But I just think that some of these top five teams have a great chance of improving. Like maybe not the Bills because they were kind of horrible last year, but the Jets have a young QB. I'm really intrigued with the Browns and the 49ers sitting with 78 and $76 million in cap space because the Browns, when they started Baker Mayfield, I think they ended up around 7-1 or something like that. They ended up with a decent record last year. I don't think they won a game, right? They didn't win a game before they got Baker, or they won one. So, I mean, that's a humongous turnaround. They added a ton of players last year, like Jarvis Landry, and they really seen some turnout from their past few draft picks. And now they got all this money, and I just think that as the Steelers, kind of dynasty fades out of that division, the Browns, out of all the teams, could really come back and surprise everybody in the NFL this year.
Yeah, I agree with that because the Bengals are on the downturn, the Steelers are on the downturn. I don't think the Ravens are going to be anything. I think people are going to figure out Lamar Jackson completely next year. I don't think he's going to be a starter for much longer. And yeah, the Browns are on the come up. I mean, they just added Kareem Hunt. They got Bradley Chubb. They got Jarvis Landry. I think that team's loaded with talent on the offensive side of the ball. If I'm that team, I'm trying to add linemen to my O-line if it needs it, and I'm gonna put everything else in defense.
Not to mention their best lineman didn't even play last year because he got hurt. So I mean, that's great for them.
Yeah, I think they're definitely on the come up. I would be smart with where I put my money. Like I wouldn't, if I'm the Browns, I wouldn't want a player like Antonio Brown on my team just because the quarterback's too young. I think Baker's also got a personality that definitely calls out people if they, lack effort or whatever. Not saying Antonio Brown's not a competitor, but I just could see Baker and his personality not meshing well. I think Brown needs to go to an established team with an established quarterback like the Packers or the Saints. Even the Texans, though. The Texans, I think, would be a great fit for Brown. But at the same time, I don't know. Brown is an interesting case because he doesn't want to be the second receiver. And DeAndre Hopkins is going to be the clear number one on that team.
Sure.
They already have a great deep threat in Will Fuller. So I don't know if he would really fit on that team. But I think Le'Veon Bell would be one of the, that would be a top destination for him. I mean, they have Lamar Miller, who's a decent running back, but he's definitely average.
Yeah,
and I don't think they have any. I don't think he's really a threat coming out the backfield in the pass game. So I think that would be a great fit for Le'Veon. Le'Veon on the Jets, he'd make a lot of money, but I don't know about Sam Darnold, and that's why I would not want to go there if I was Brown. Obviously, Brown doesn't have a choice, which is really funny the way he's been talking. He acts like it's his decision, but I would not go to the Jets if I was Brown, and I don't want to because that's how receivers' careers pretty much die. Like they go to a team with a below average quarterback or a young quarterback, and they don't get the ball enough, and then everybody thinks they suck, and they're done. That's it.
I don't think Antonio Brown realizes that he's 30 either, and 30-year-old receivers don't play well anymore. But he's been talking about it, and he's been talking to T.O. and stuff like that, trying to go to the 49ers, and I think the Steelers were saying that they really don't want to trade him to anybody within their division, like within their conference. So nobody in the AFC. So that kind of takes some of those teams out and makes it better for a team like the Niners. But to me, I don't even see the Niners are sitting with $76 million in cap space. And I don't think that they should even waste their money. They have an unproven Jimmy Garoppolo coming off a terrible injury, and they have a young head coach, and then I don't know. I don't think they should take that risk. I just think that these teams that are on the come up and with a ton of cap space need to focus on premier free agents and not try to make trades that might hurt.
I think Brown and the Niners would be a nice fit just because I think Garoppolo is more proven than people give him credit for. Obviously, he hasn't played in a lot of games, but I think the NFL is one of those leagues where the eye test is enough almost. I think Garoppolo has shown he's got the talent, whereas players like Darnold or Rosen or not that, obviously they're rookie quarterbacks compared to Garoppolo, but I don't think those guys passed any eye tests.
No.
Where I think Garoppolo, everything about him seems to pass, and he played under Brady for so long. I think he's a lot smarter than these young guys. I think he's got incredible talent, physical talent, matched with his leadership ability. I just think that would be a great fit. The 49ers have no good receivers. I mean, I can't really even – who are they? Marcus Goodwin, is that one of their guys?
Yeah, they just released Pierre Garçon.
Yeah, so they have no real number ones. Brown would fit that role, come right in. He would be super amped to actually, be that number one receiver. So I think he would have a productive couple years there. And he is 31, like you were saying, but also players of his caliber still can produce for a couple more years once they hit that age. I think he's got one more year being a superstar and 2 more productive, solid NFL years left. So about 3 years left. And by time, those years are up, Garoppolo should be in his prime by then, and you can transition to the younger guys or a newer free agent. So I think the Niners would be a good fit for Brown personally. And yeah, any other team with good coaching or good veteran quarterbacks, I think, are a good fit for Brown. The teams that want to win now. I don't think if you're a team completely on the come up, you should necessarily go after them unless you feel like you have a good, strong leadership in the quarterback position and in the locker room. And I think the Niners probably have that.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, it just depends on what a GM will think that his culture is like, and if he can add a guy like that. But in the coming weeks, we'll see also some more free agent news, which will give us a better look at the actual class of free agents when teams start to franchise tag players and stuff like that. And some really big names are on free agency, and if they don't get franchise tagged, then we'll be having a whole entire different conversation next week about this.
Definitely.
So yeah, it's exciting for the NFL and the NBA, and the MLB's coming
Yeah,
up soon.
and if you're gonna compare Brown to OBJ, that's another thing we can talk about. I'd rather trade for Antonio Brown personally, just because I think Odell is he's gonna be too much. Like the price to get him is gonna be high. I don't think he's gonna be any more productive on a new team than Antonio Brown would.
Only difference is age.
Yeah, exactly. The only difference is age. So the only, if I'm a team maybe like that's not a competitor, I would maybe want to trade for OBJ. But even then, you don't trade for a receiver when you're not competitive. So I don't know. But if I'm a team like the Patriots or the Saints or something, I'm going in for Antonio Brown. I don't see why you wouldn't. I really don't. I mean, it's a championship piece. That's a huge piece to most teams, especially a team like the Patriots or the Saints, where he's not going to cause trouble in the locker room. He's not going to disrespect Drew Brees or Tom Brady. I just don't see it. So,
Yeah, it's just it has to go back to that
because neither one of those guys are going to insult you on the public.
in the public eye. Yeah.
Ben Roethlisberger, he's out of control. He's been out of control for way too long. This dude says and does whatever he wants, and he's not held accountable. And I think that's really why I think that's the real reason why Pittsburgh has collapsed, because you can't let some dude just run loose like this and not hold him accountable while everyone else is held accountable and held to these strict standards. It doesn't work like that. This dude literally said, like, I think 2 years ago, he said he was going to retire, and then they draft a quarterback, and he's like, nah, this dude's a bum. I'm not retiring. I'm staying for another 5 to 10 years. Dude, who are you? Somebody's got to put a leash on this guy, because I think he's the reason why Pittsburgh has fallen.
I believe the same reason. I think it is. It's probably Ben's fault that he's a cancer in that locker room, and he told that quarterback that they drafted this past year that they didn't want him to play. Like, it was his team, and he's not going to help him at all. I just think he's selfish, and he's a terrible leader in that regard. And I think that the Steelers organization put their faith in the wrong person. So
I agree. I feel like he's the type of guy that comes in the locker room, either doesn't really talk to people or smiles in your face and acts like none's wrong, and then boom, turns around and is telling everybody you don't work hard or something. I mean, he's fake. He's like talking in the media how he didn't realize him and Brown had a disagreement or whatever. Like, come on, dude. Like, I don't know. I feel like he's all about himself.
Yeah, and I hope that all about myself attitude stays with him and doesn't infest the rest of the league, kind of like it's done in the NBA.
Kind of like it's doing in the NBA, yeah.
About. So, I hope that kind of crap cuts out with a selfish quarterback like that. So, we'll see how it goes, but I think it's going to be hilarious when we watch this coming season and we see how true Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers are. Because I wouldn't be surprised if Mike Tomlin got fired and they just blew it all.
Yeah, people want to look at Mike Tomlin. The only thing I would blame on Mike Tomlin is not holding Ben accountable. He's definitely part of that problem. But other than that,
he's a good coach.
He's a great coach. He's one of the best coaches in the whole league that's ever played. I mean, you look at his numbers. So, but yeah, other than that, I think free agency is gonna be fun this year. We're just gonna have to see. I wish we had a list of more names so we could talk about more players, but we can do that next week.
Yeah, it's just to see. Well, I can rattle off like a few top names. It's mostly free agent class is mostly gonna be on the defensive side of the ball with like Jadeveon Clowney and DeMarcus Lawrence, but a lot of those dudes are up for franchise tags. Yeah. So, we'll just have to see which teams make a decision in that front. But like Landon Collins yesterday apparently is rumored not to get the franchise tag and be out for the Giants. So, that's another massive all-pro type player. So
there'll be some good pieces, and we can definitely talk about that. So I think that's it, unless you have anything else you want to talk about.
That's it. Thanks for listening. We need a name, too.